and intro. Welcome to the Hop Edition podcast, brought to you in association with The Malt Miller, your go-to choice for premium homebrewing ingredients and equipment. Whether you're a beginner starting out or an experienced brewer, The Malt Miller has got you covered. So for top quality products and customer service, jump over to themaltmiller.co.uk and tell them the Hop Edition sent you. We would also like to thank all our Patreons for their continued support with running and developing the pod. If you would like to become a member and gain access to exclusive perks and benefits, head over to patreon.com/the Hop Edition. Now it's time to get this pod started, so crack open a homebrew and enjoy the episode.
Hello listeners and welcome to episode 82 of the Hop Edition podcast, and tonight we welcome back a special guest, a returning guest, Martin Hoddinott, now of Maverick Brew Co. So we're going to be having return of Hoddy on the Poddy, part deux. Welcome Martin. So before we make a start, it's a quick reminder to check out our wonderful sponsor, the Malt Miller. Black Friday has unfortunately now finished, but there's still loads of great deals in their special offer section, so have a little peruse ahead of writing out your Christmas list for Santa. And remember, there's also a dedicated Hop Edition recipe section on the Malt Miller website where you can find a range of beers that we've featured on the podcast, including some of our own creations and some real stunners from guests that we've had on the podcast. And just as final reminder, please, if you get a moment, subscribe to our YouTube channel and Facebook page. It helps certainly with us growing the podcast, but also useful for you to see our announcements as well as just interacting with the podcast during our live streams. So check us out on Facebook, that's the Hop Edition podcast, and go to YouTube, that's at the Hop Edition podcast. So
and
with
those
all that
links
said,
are in the chat, by the way.
Yes, we'll put those links in the chat for you. Hoddy, welcome back. How are you?
Wow. Is it a year? Is it a year? Can anyone remember?
Nope.
We should have probably found out what the actual date was.
Yeah, probably. I mean, what
must
a year
have been a
it's
year.
been.
Maybe more.
Yeah,
Maybe
yeah
more.
probably actually. Yeah, because it would have been the summer, right? So we're like, believe me, I know we're in the winter because I've been hurriedly wiring outdoor sockets on the outside wall of the brewery this afternoon in the freezing cold, shaking, trying to get a socket for power for the curry truck. But I'm sure we'll talk about the fun and games.
The joys of being a brewery owner.
Yeah, and it's you rapidly learn you're not just a brewer, you're a cleaner and a janitor and a handyman. Accounts department and everything else as well, right?
All things to all men, Martin. So before we dive into a bit more of why Hoddy's on the podcast and his story over the last year, which he's alluded to, how are we all doing and what are we drinking? Tricky, good evening. What are you drinking?
Hello Owen, lovely to hear from you. So I have got my Biolized IPA on the go, which I think we had a little chat about previously. The idea it's the same glass as you. So the idea with this was I wanted to try and use a kind of more West Coast orientated recipe and then do the biolizing tricks and processes that go on top of that. So it's a Chinook, Mosaic, Cascade, little bit of Idaho 7 in there, kind of, more West Coast kind of orientated base recipe. And then I've also used some mash hopping and phantasm powder in it, and obviously a biolized yeast as well. And it's no longer a West Coast IPA. I'll say that much. there's gonna be a video on this, but it's yeah, I mean, it's radically sort of changed the outcome of what I was expecting it to be based on the base recipe, as it were. So there's just, it's really softened the bitterness for a start. There's loads of like grapey, kind of grape juice, sort of passion fruit flavor and aroma on it, and it's got this thing that I seem to have picked up from a lot of the commercial kind of firelized beers so far, which is this sort of really overripe kind of fruit flavor, almost to the point where it kind of tastes like it's almost like fermenting a bit, yeah, like sort of slightly fermented fruit juice. So yeah, it's really interesting. It's definitely done something to it, but trying to pick apart exactly what it's doing is going to be interesting. So yeah, that's what I'm on anyway. So yeah.
Was that Cascade in the mash? Did you mash hop with that one?
I did Cascade and SARS in the mash. So I went with the both of the hops, which are supposed to be really heavy in the bound files for mash hopping. And
you're getting grapefruit?
Not so much grapefruit, I don't think. It's definitely more of a kind of grape juice, maybe passion fruit sort of thing. It seems to be the dominant flavour for me. I guess there is a little bit of a pithy kind of citrus note in there, but it's more the kind of grape juice thing for me. It does have, I mean, I know it's not because it's got like grape skin powder stuff in it, but it does have this kind of like fruity white wine-esque kind of note to it, which having read a little bit more on files in the Scott Yanish book, apparently that's kind of where a lot of this theory and science comes from anyway, because before they had beer yeast to do this, it was actually wine yeast, which were the ones that people were experimenting with to try and unlock the files. So it's kind of a gene from those yeasts that they've bred into or genetically modified into some yeast for that purpose. So yeah, interesting. Anyway,
it's kind
would you do it again?
Largely come from that New Zealand Marlborough Sauvignon Blanc,
yeah, exactly,
thing, isn't it? Which is gooseberry, passion fruit type vibe.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely makes it seem like it's kind of got a shit ton of Nelson hops in it without using Nelson hops in it, which is interesting. Would I do it again? I mean, I think it's a bit of a head melter, because you kind of have an idea of what you think it's going to taste like, and then it's completely changed it. So I'm like a little bit just trying to come to terms of like what the beer is at the minute. I think I would, if I use it again, I will probably try and tone it down a bit and make that like more of a smaller element of the beer, as opposed to being the kind of dominant flavor in it. Because I thought that with the amount of Chinook and Mosaic and stuff that was in there, it would still maintain a kind of West Coast character to it, but it's completely blown that out of the water. Basically, it's a completely different beer now. It's there is a little bit of bitterness on it, but it's really almost steered it towards kind of soft, juicy, kind of hazy territory, as opposed to a Westie, which is a bit mad, really.
You did sort of go triple barrel on that baby.
Yeah, I did.
Everything thrown at it.
Everything.
Yeah, but it's in theory it's got about 60 IBUs on it, but you wouldn't know it tasting it. So yeah,
oh, that's cool. So you've just gone a proper, you've almost got like a really solid IPA
ish.
No.
All right, cool. Hoddy, what are you drinking?
Well, I have been working today, and I've just got back from the tap room. So I grabbed some cans out of the beer fridge from the tap room, which I guess is one bonus to having a tap room with a beer fridge. And then also grabbed a couple of cans. The first one I'm having tonight is Poddy's. I want to say Pablo, but it's not. It's Pueblo. Nice little Easer, 3.5%. Azaka Mosaic, classic Poddy's, soft, juicy, kind of just a good solid beer. For me, it felt like they lost their way a little bit, but I definitely think over the last 6 to 12 months, they've definitely dialed things. They grew massively, right? And it definitely feels like over the last 6, 12 months, they've dialed stuff back in now.
Yeah.
I think they struggle with consistency, or at least with the cans I was picking up, there were some that were banging, and then some you get that would be a bit like what. But yeah, that's what I'm on. Lovely. I do love a bit of a Zaka, which I'm sure we'll talk about in a little bit.
We'll get on to your love for a Zaka. Pueblo, is that village, small town in Spanish?
I've got no idea.
So.
There you go.
Owen.
I'll double check whilst Andy talks about what beer he's drinking.
Tell us about your Mender beer, Andy.
Yeah, exactly. So for anyone that doesn't know, I'd brewed a 7.5% dipper keg of it, and so I took it to Dell's house last night. So we all crashed at Dell's, and basically, you'll see in my future video, Ross is basically KO'd in the corner after 6 pints of it, and me and Dell going, yeah.
Balancing Pringle tubes on his head.
Yeah.
Poor fella.
So yes, I'm going for something slightly less dank and chewy, and it's like a Japanese rice lager type thing I did with an experimental 35 hop, which I believe is from New Zealand. It's very delicate, really just easy drinker, which I need just now. And let's get this
We've
nice.
all been there. We've all been there.
Yeah. I'm just more tired than anything. I think it was 5 hours sleep last night. You know, just waking up to the sound of puking.
Oh no!
Lovely.
Oh, it was so funny. But yeah, so it's got this nice sort of grape sort of thing going on, but it's very super delicate, like slight kind of peachy little bit. But yeah, it's beautiful. Really, actually, I kind of went off it when I first tried this lager. I was like, oh my goodness, this is going to get tanked, and then I kind of went off it a little bit, and it's just sat while I've tried to get through other stuff, and now yeah, I'll be back on this because it is tasting good.
Good bit of lagering, Andy. It's
yeah,
to depth of flavour, doesn't it?
I don't know if you can see, but yeah, it's looking.
It's getting there.
Yeah, it's good.
Nice
and light. What about you, on?
So, off the back of chatting with Andy from Elusive, I was somewhat inspired to rebrew a Pipper, unsurprisingly.
Nice.
Black IPA.
And actually, this is... I must have kegged it probably getting on 2 weeks ago. No, probably not that long ago. Last Friday. But this is the first time I'm trying it.
Wow.
And yeah, I'm really pleased with it.
Did you go with his advice and go with a citrus and a dank?
I went with Columbus Centennial Simcoe Citra Mosaic.
Everything.
So I had
Big gun.
Columbus bittering, Centennial and Simcoe through the boil, and then dry hop with Citra Mosaic Simcoe. And it's super juicy. I ended up co-pitching Mangrove Jack's M66, which is the hop head. That's the pack you sent me, Tricky, with a pack of Lallemand New England, because I think they're more or less the same yeast strain anyway. It's just you can have a little bit of the...
it's quite bitter, Owen. Is there a lot of assertive bitterness?
It's not too bad. I think, to be fair, Andy's advice was to soften up the water profile so that then the darker roasted malts don't come across
it's the yeast.
Quite strong. There is a bitterness to it, but I think it's well balanced.
I did the Vacant Gesture, and one had that hop head, another one was different, and the hop head was like way more. It's like you could tell like there was a lot more bitterness that was kind of shining through it. And I think if you read into that, a Tricky, you'd had that experience possibly, but yeah, it definitely brings more bitterness to the party.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't got a comparator, but there's a nice level of bitterness to it, which I kind of like.
Which you want, yeah.
But there's a lot of good. It's not crazy amounts of dry hop, but there's a nice aroma to it. A little bit roasty, but not too roasty. So yeah, I'm really, really pleased with that. Head
Nice
retention
one.
could be a bit better, but I think it might need a bit more carb, to be fair.
Yeah.
It's come back over this well.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
So yeah, I'm pleased with that.
Excellent.
So we're all done. We're all
Everyone's
on
done.
what we're drinking. Took a bit longer than we normally.
Yeah, what happened to the 1 minute round robin? That one.
We're back.
Never mind.
Chris
We
Never
want
mind.
to talk about a technical.
Well, yeah,
result
you
of
end up
Homebrew.
going down a rabbit hole, don't you? Start talking
Yeah.
files, and it
Homebrew.
all goes to shit straight away.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, so yeah, we've got Martin here. It's been a while since you were last with us. Let's have an overview of what's been going on in Hoddy's world over the last year or so, or more, and what's been going on, because I think you've got quite a lot to tell us about, haven't you?
Yeah, I mean, it's been, I say the last year and a bit, it's been a bit of a whirlwind. So obviously, Homebrew Con with you guys, which went quite well for me, I think, it's probably the best way to put it, which was mega. And then not very long after that, I those of you that sort of followed the journey on social media, I managed to get keys for our new premises over in a little village called Kingsley in North Hampshire. Actually very lucky in the sense that it's like 10 minutes from my house. So as I've learned over the last year, having somewhere like a brewery that's very close to you is really handy, because you'll spend a lot of time driving backwards and forwards.
Oh yeah.
Things
Going wrong.
Yeah, things going wrong, or you just need to go and do stuff. And we'll get into this later, but it's been, I kind of knew, but then you kind of truly find out that, you know, actually you have to be there quite a lot. You don't have to be there all the time, but actually you do realistically need to be visiting once a day. You've got different fermentations happening. You need to do sample checks, QA, QC checks on beers, adjust temperatures, which I'm sure we'll talk about temperature definitely, because we had a really cold winter last year, heading into a cold period right now, and
Wow.
managing your beers through cold temperatures is definitely something you have to learn quite quickly.
Is it not something you could just start looking at lagers at this point, because it just seems like perfect lagering time?
It is exactly on the brew schedule. So we're I've been producing a Kolsch. Chris isn't here, so he can't complain about how it's pronounced. But, yeah, that's the one. And that's been super popular actually. And now we're getting into this cold period. I'm now looking at putting a Kolsch into tank and just letting that ferment nice and cold all the way through the winter. Well, not through the winter, but over the Christmas period.
Yep.
Getting that across into bright tank. And then let that kind of condition for sort of 6 weeks. From a tap room perspective, we're probably going to close our tap room through January, just because January's a shit show, I think, for most pubs and bars and stuff anyway. So what's the point of opening and making life difficult for yourself, as it were. So yeah, we got the keys and started building out a brewery. Blood, sweat and tears went into that. So building of walls, brewery floors. I'm quite lucky because I'm an electrician and an engineer, so I did a lot of the work for that myself. Saved quite a bit of money. Because it's surprising, even just with materials and stuff, how costs can get out of control quite quick. So yeah, building that. Oh well, yeah, copper's yeah, frightfully expensive. I kind of I've become a bit of a face bay trawler these days as well. I wouldn't like to say I'm not tight, but I'm a firm believer in you got to manage your costs sometimes, and if you can get good quality stuff secondhand, you got to be smart about some of this sort of stuff. Just through spending a bit of time, doing a bit of searching and stuff, you can save yourself quite a bit of money.
Keep an eye out for special deals on hops as well, right?
Right, we'll talk about that. They're looking good. They're gonna get all of that's gonna get dry hopped into a beer probably tomorrow, actually. So we're gonna use those 20 kgs up tomorrow. So yeah, I mean, you never really see this when you see about breweries building and starting out and stuff, and it just looks like it's all new shiny stuff and all that sort of stuff going in. But
it's ironing out all the kinks as well, isn't it?
Oh yeah, I mean, so I was building the brewery, wiring it, doing all the plumbing, all the piping and all that sort of stuff, as well as installing the cold room and all that sort of stuff all the way through the winter. And then we started to commission the kit in late April this year. Funny story, the very first batch I did, it was still pretty cold. It was April this year, so it's still pretty chilly. And those of you that don't have single vessel systems, I mean, I've had a Braumeister when I was a home brewer, but if you have like a 3-vessel system, you have to get into strike water temperature to be able to hit your mash and all that sort of stuff. And when you're doing brew in the bag, which is great. But when you get into a bigger scale, you've got big lumps of stainless steel you're dealing with, and those big lumps of stainless steel get really quite cold. When it's like 4 degrees outside, that stainless steel gets really quite cold. And you can preheat. So I normally chuck in 50, 60, 70 litres of my strike water straight into my mash tun, put the lid on and leave it for 20 minutes before I even then mash in, because I then just empty the water out because it comes out lukewarm. But the very first brew that I did, I didn't preheat the mash tun.
Yeah.
Started to mash, putting all, mashing it in, all going in, got there towards the end. I think I was shooting for like 66, 67. I think I must have got to about 62. And it was like, oh, this isn't going to go well.
No, this is going to be dry.
So, so, mashing and stuff, took it all the way through because it was always going to be a trial batch, right? It was never, I always knew that first batch was never really going to make it, but took it all the way through because, again, it's using all the kit, working out the process, and the process has changed massively, if I'm honest, from, that 8-9 months ago to where I am now. The process and procedures are completely different because I've rapidly learned it's all about making your life as easy as possible.
Yeah,
because it's a long day, there's a lot to do, and if you can not shortcuts, but just by adding an extra valve here means you can just go from here to here, and it's you shave 15 minutes off that, or that makes that a little bit easier. It's 100% worth your time. Anyway, long story short, I put some USO5 in it, or LAX, and I think it fermented out to like 10004 or something. It was like bastard dry. So it was like, open the valve, down the drain, go away, and then rebrewed again very shortly.
Did you taste it?
Yeah, but it was not the beer it's supposed to be. And as quite a few people I've spoken to over the last sort of 6, 8, 9, 10 months, is it doesn't take you very long to get a reputation.
Yeah.
And when you get that reputation, you need to make sure it's as good as a reputation as you possibly can.
Yeah.
So I have had to, can a few beers over the last 8-10 months just because they've not been good enough, really. They've not been as good as I want them to be. They've not been up to spec. And you can't run the risk of putting out.
So how many goes did you have before you had a batch that you were happy to put out to paying customers?
The funny thing about all of this is so this first batch, and I specifically designed it to be super simple, right? Because you want it to be super simple so you can just understand how everything, and understand the beer at the end, and it not to be too costly because you're probably going to have to can it anyway, but to understand it. Second brew day that went through there and thereabouts on mash temperature. Wall pouring, which we'll talk about, has improved considerably. But anyway, rinsed it out, dry hopped it. Thought, actually, this is all right, actually. Put it into bright tank, still okay. Thought, okay, this is good. Kegged it, put it into the cold store. Had a few other beers coming through after that point, and I think it was late May. I think it was. Is there a bank holiday in May? I think there is one. Isn't there? Is there one in May?
Yeah.
And
2 usually.
It was the one at the end of May. That's right, because that's going to be our first birthday party next year. We're planning for that already. So I was like, right, actually, I really need some cash. So we're going to open the tap room. I think we only had 3 beers ready on tap, but we're going to open the tap room. One of them, one of the beers was that second beer that we made that was supposed to be a pilot. And I thought, well, never mind. We'll just put it out and sell it. It's good enough. It's actually ended up being our core beer now. I've probably rebrewed it about 7 times, and I can't make enough of it.
Is
And
is it Contours?
Yeah, Contours, yeah.
Wow.
I mean, it's Citra Mosaic. It's it's an all-time crowd pleaser. And this beer will be going into can. It's supposed to be before Christmas, but it's going to be after Christmas now, next year. And we, on the words on the can, we say, this was never supposed to be commercially available, and here it is. So yeah,
amazing.
And what style of beer is it? I'd assume it's like a sort of pale ale.
Standard hazy pale, yeah, 4.8, 24 IBUs, Citra hop side, Citra Mosaic in the dry hop, LAX, so essentially USO 5. Say FG is 10, 11. Nothing crazy, slightly hazy, but people just love it. They just, I mean, particularly where the brewery is, we're in a small little village, quite traditional. I think it's probably to put a certain point, and glassware has been an interesting talking point. So I went for the Rastal, and doing beers in 1/3 and 2/3. That took people a lot to get used to. There was quite a few funny faces, even to the point. Yeah, literally, even to the point, there was one old boy, and I mean, this is hilarious. You're getting old boys coming into the brewery, sitting there drinking like these hazy fruit juice looking beers in their like flat caps and stuff. It's just brilliant. But I've got this one old boy, and he brings his own pint glass with him.
You don't do pints, Hoddy. You don't have pint glasses.
I don't do pints. But he's like, I want a pint. So I charge him for a pint, but he's happy. I haven't quite managed to get him on the 6% West Coast IPA we've got on tap at the moment. I think if he has a couple of pints of that, I think he'll fall over. But
yeah, he'll be back to the 2/3, I think.
Yeah, that's right, exactly. So going through, commissioned the kit, got through that, got the tap room opened. That's when things got really busy, because actually you're running a brewery, doing some trade sales. We're not doing masses, definitely not now or through the summer, because probably 80-90% of all of our beers ended up going through the tap room, which has been mind-blowing. I think that's probably the best way to put it.
It's phenomenal.
So have you had a lot more people sort of turning up in person than what you were expecting? Because you mentioned your location is sort of a little bit rural and out of the way, and I guess were you not expecting to get that much footfall as you've ended up seeing since, or are people kind of like driving out to you as a special, doing special trips to get there, or where are the people sort of coming from for you?
Do you know what? Actually, it's just really, having a tap room has been really bizarre, right? I mean, I've never worked in hospitality before. I always knew, having a tap room would be absolutely crucial, because the profit margin difference is massive. And now I think every brewery, you have to have a tap room. To really make it like properly financially viable, you have to have a semi-busy tap room. And when we first opened, we were quite busy. I mean, I bought what I buy like 100 glasses. And then after like the first couple of weekends, I had to go out and buy another 100 glasses, because I rapidly discovered that 100 glasses is not enough. And we're getting people now, and definitely through the summer, you're seeing new faces every weekend. Every time, every Saturday, someone comes in, and I'm like, I've not seen you here before. Oh, and they're like, oh yeah, we've heard about you because we went to so and so, and they said, oh, we should come. So we've come. We've brought some friends, and then. Yeah, I'm getting people
organically,
and I'm getting people, drive say for an hour, because they've heard about us, and they're turning up and having a few beers and stuff as well. But yes, local support, we're on we're rural, but we're kind of walkable distance from a couple of nearby towns. We get quite a few mountain bikers through the summer, so we'll get big groups of mountain bikers will turn up. We did have a couple of guys who, like those like motorized single-wheeled skateboardy type things.
One wheels,
one wheel things. We had a
Yeah,
group
one
of
wheel.
those guys turn up through the summer. A couple of them had a few too many beers to
Couldn't ride
maybe
the one
drive
wheel
one of those things afterwards. But no, it's been mind blowing. Actually, I've said to a few people on a few occasions, I'm still amazed every day we open that tap room and people walk in through the door, and they're coming back to drink the beers that I've made, and they keep coming back, and people are paying money to come and drink the beers I made, which I know that's the point, right? But it's just a very it is. Yeah, it is. It's very humbling in a lot of ways, I think. Very humbling. I'm just a dude making some beer that I think's half decent and that I like, and I really want people to enjoy it
as well, can't we? Of our own beer.
Yes.
You can, and everyone else is like, oh, this is really good, and you're like, it could be better.
Well, that's been the one thing, is I'm super critical. So there's over everything I make, and any beers I'm making, I'm always
how can I
tasting
improve
it, different bits, and I'm thinking, okay, I could do this next time. Wouldn't do this different, and that, if anything, has been a bit of that's something that's taken a while for me to get my head around from being a home brewer. That your cycle time, your ability to try new things is really quick, because you're only doing 20-25 liters. You can hammer your way through it, or if it's a bit dodgy, you just pour it down.
I was going to say it's the other way, Martin, because I was thinking it would be you're brewing more often,
quicker turnover, maybe.
And so, but you're doing that same beer over and over, sort of thing, and then you can then see the differences. Whereas as a homebrewer, you're just wanting to try new things all the time, and then if you're going to do a V2, it's like it might be quite a while later.
It's funny. It's some beers you're making. Oh, hello, focus. Some beers you're making a lot of, like Contours. I'm brewing that quite a lot, but there's a couple of other beers that I've only made once or twice. That hang on, focus. There we go. That I really like, but for some reason aren't selling as much as the other ones, and I really want to make that one more. So I'm like, people buy this one, drink this one, because I want to make some more of it. So and change it. So you're kind of, it's a really weird kind of where you're kind of stuck between the two kind of thing.
Well, you're at the mercy of the supply and demand sort of thing, aren't you? Really, I guess.
Yeah, but this is it. Yeah, this is it. I mean, I'm gonna try and get this to focus now. Come on, focus, god damn you. So I've got
that's better.
I've got a lad that's I've got my first part-time employee now, which is again mind blowing. Charlie, and he's great, but he's interested in beer, he's enthusiastic about it, but he's never really homebrewed. So he's been coming in, helping on brew days. I'm starting to kind of teach him about that. And he did his first homebrew with me the other week. So I dug all my homebrew kit out, because that has not seen the light of day for like a year and a bit now. Brought all the kit over to the brewery, and I designed a stout recipe for him, and I got him so he's made his first homebrew. We kegged it during the week. Actually, it tastes really good. I'm almost kind of thinking maybe we need to make this on the big kit now. There's a stout. It's like 5.8. It's just a really good, not super thick and heavy, but it's just a really good, easy, dangerously drinking kind of stout.
Good time of year to get a dark beer on as well, for sure.
Which we've got a dark beer on at the moment. We've got an American porter, so 5.5%.
Yeah. Have you noticed like that big change in sort of seasonal drinking and stuff with the people coming in? Is it selling as well as you'd expect, or not as much? And people still coming in just want to drink the hazy beers still, and
people still just want to come in and drink the hazy beers. That and the cold. People just want to come and drink it. You do get your kind of diehard camera boys, and they're like, I don't like beers that taste of flowers. and but,
Well,
where's your bitter kind of thing on tap and all this sort of stuff. And but I've not seen, obviously I've not gone all the way through the winter yet, but I've not seen a real seasonal change. I definitely am going to probably brew a stout over Christmas or something like that, and then have that to go out to trade in kind of January, February, and if we've got any kegs left, then it'll go in the tap room. So yeah, not so much. So no, it's been crazy. I mean, there's another story is I'm quite critical about the beers I've made. I have poured away a few beers that I didn't think were up to scratch. And there's a few regulars that come into the tap room, definitely in the early days, and some people have been super supportive. And I'd kind of take samples off the bright tanks and give them to people and go, "What do you think of this? What do you think of this?" Just to gauge reaction of where stuff's at. And there was this one beer that I didn't think was good enough, and I was going to pour it down the drain. I think it was like a Sunday that day. And this same guy and his wife and his son were coming in quite a lot, and he came in this one day, and he's like, "What are you doing?" I said, "Oh, I'm gonna pour that beer away. I'm just not happy with it." It's like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "Yeah, it's just not good enough." He's like, "Seriously, stick that in keg because I'll drink all of it myself." and yeah, we put it in, we kegged it all, and it's flown out into trade. There's a couple of bars and bar owners that absolutely loved it, and it's gone down a storm. And actually, funnily enough, I thought we'd sold it all, and it went off tap about a month or two ago, and I was reorganizing the
I've seen this. Yeah, I've seen you put it up on your Facebook, and there's a mystery keg, and it was that.
I found a mystery, like an abandoned keg of this Talis. It's a Talis IPA, and it's gone back on. I had loads of people message me going, how much have you got? How long is it on for? I can't make it this weekend. Are you going to have it for next weekend? People coming in filling growlers of it.
If you tried it yourself and you're still not happy with it, but everyone else likes it, is it one of these? Because Talis is such a Marmite thing. That maybe
it's a divisive hop, isn't it? For sure.
You're not liking what you can taste, but other people are like, "Oh, I can't get enough of this."
I think for me it's more of the grist that I don't like. I like the hop character. I like how the balance of the beer and how that presents. I think the grist isn't quite right. I think I put too much Vienna in it, so it's a little bit
dark.
It's a little bit too sweet. I think
biscuity.
Get from that biscuity and stuff. I think it needs to be paler. I'd probably be inclined to leave the Vienna out completely, and stuff, and then rebrew it again and see what it's like.
That bready thing. It brings up, it can bring a lot of malt character, can't it?
I think it's got too much malt character. Whether people will still like it because it's got less malt character or not, it remains.
They're like, "No, we want the Vienna back in." So
it's Hoddy, maybe just go the other way. I'd just go like way more Vienna. And make a kind of Talis Vienna lager type,
like a red ale or something like that. Go full kind of, go full elusive and go full red ale.
Yeah, as long as you can get it clear. That's the only problem with.
This is it.
As I discovered,
darker.
So there's another
IPA. Yeah.
There's another joke in the brewery. So the same guy and his wife and his son that were coming in a lot beginning of the summer when I made this Kolsch, and Kolsch, as we all know, as a yeast, is notoriously powdery.
Yeah.
And transferred it across into Bright Tank, and like after a week at 1 degree, taking a sample, milk. Okay, right, leave it, carbonating the whole time, come back a week later, another sample, milk. Okay, because the sample port on my tanks are quite low down. On my Bright Tanks, obviously you're drawing from the bottom, so if it's clear at the bottom, you can keg it. It's bright. And this guy was like, "Is the Kolsch ready yet?" hang on, go off, take a sample. No, it's still milk. Week later, and this went on for week after week after week. And like I said, about week 7, week 8, like poured it. Oh, it was like, like out of Monty Python, the crowd would open. Oh, it's ready. And but yeah. So yeah. No,
no findings.
The holy hand grenade.
Yeah,
that's right. Yeah, that's right. So there weren't any findings because I forgot to put the findings into the bright tank before I flushed a bit of CO2 before I transferred the beer in. So once the beer was in there, there's no way of getting findings in. So it was a sit and wait. But if I'm honest, I think the beer was better for it because when it was kegged, it was conditioned, it was ready to go. It was, it had been properly lagered for 7-8 weeks. It was just bang on.
Banging. Yeah.
It's hard to be a good Kolsch, shouldn't it?
It's a beer I've made quite a few times at Homebrew, and you get it in that sweet spot, and it's just super good.
Yeah, being forced to wait that little bit longer has probably done it good in the end, hasn't it? To be fair, hasn't it?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, definitely.
I love a Sarzy Kolsch.
Yeah, so this was Perla and Hallertau Milfrew. So yeah, Fields it's called. That classic one on our exactly.
I can see why with that hop choice.
Yeah,
what
really
would you use for your Kolsch?
For that one, I pushed the boat out. I went full Weimar, so Weimar Pilsner malt.
Oh, okay, very nice, very nice.
And it definitely was better for it. I think a little bit of Vienna, a little bit of Carapils. That was it.
Yeah, a simple beer like that it's always worth the investment in a really good quality base malt, I think.
Yeah,
I agree
definitely.
with that.
Dingermans. Just saying that because obviously we managed to get a whole load, so yeah, it's all good.
But you say that about using expensive ingredients. I'll just throw in there fermented with Cross My Loof Kolsch yeast. 5 packs of 100 the 100-gram packs. So Cross My Loof do 100-gram packs of some of their yeast. 5 packs of that into 700 liters fermented out of a beauty. So
is that the Kentucky yeast?
No, it's their actual Kolsch yeast.
Yeah, they've got dedicated Kolsch yeast, I think, haven't they?
Yeah, it's really good. Yeah, it's really good. Top tip for anyone to making a Kolsch at home. And obviously some of their yeast is super cheap. So we're doing it on a budget.
Got love Cross My Loof.
Yeah,
always handy. Yeah. Always handy in a pinch as well.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, exactly.
So we've touched on quite a few, I guess, points there already about the transition from homebrew to professional and so on. But if there's people sort of listening to this podcast who are considering embarking on that journey themselves, what would be the things that you sort of would say to somebody in that position as far as what are the really key things to consider as far as what's different between the homebrew version of what you were doing going up to professional level, and I guess more importantly kind of what are the potential pitfalls that people need to be aware of in terms of things that you might not necessarily consider.
Hop utilization, definitely. I mean, thankfully, I've already brewed a few times kind of commercially, so I kind of
scaling recipes straight up is not necessarily going to work straight away.
No, and the really interesting thing is that a beer that you make at home on your homebrew kit, even if you scale the recipe correctly, it will be completely different when you brew it on a commercial kit.
Well, that's what it's like. You get a recipe from a brewery, right? And then you put it in your kit. It's totally different. And then
it goes both ways.
Then you do bottle shares between all your mates that have all done the same kit, and you all taste completely different.
That's why it's funny when you talk to some people and they're like, you're really protective over your recipes and all this sort of stuff. You're like, no, brewers aren't, because we all know we can't make that beer the same as they do, and they can't make the beers we make.
Yeah.
Our kits are different, our processes are different, our water's different, everything's different. it's and that's it's just not going to happen.
I've had funny conversations with people along those lines before, particularly my father-in-law, who's always like, "Oh, you've won these competitions or whatever. Like, oh, why aren't you selling your recipes to people?" And I'm like, "That's not how it works, Barry. Like, nobody's going to buy the recipe off me." But yeah, so like, particularly people who obviously haven't brewed or are involved in it, they don't quite. Like you say, they feel like there's should be kind of copyright almost on the recipes and things.
Right,
It just doesn't work that way, does it, at all? Because the recipe is really
that's only a small part of it, right?
It's
the recipe,
just it's a framework, isn't it, more than anything else, really? And you'd have to change it almost always for different brewing kit or situations. So
I mean, so what other things would I say to people? I think think really hard before you do it. Being honest, think really hard. I mean, so I'll be absolutely honest. I've still got my full-time job, so I've not like tossed the job in. I'm not doing this full time and all this sort of stuff. I've still got a 9 to 5 job. I still work.
That's mad.
37.5 hours a week, and I run the brewery. And the brewery hasn't paid me a penny in the last 10 months. Don't get me wrong. Bank account's in the black. That's all good. Just bought a brand new DPV tank. So I've got a 1,000-litre conical tank of our first one that I bought secondhand, I must say. And I negotiated a good bargain. But got our first DPV. The business is washing its own face. I've got a part-time guy now that's doing like tap room for a couple of days a week. He's doing, all our emailers. He's doing some of our social media, all that kind of stuff. And it's growing, and we're getting there, and all this sort of stuff. But don't expect to just kind of open a brewery and it's suddenly to pay your current salary.
No way.
I think it's the best way to put it. You've got to want to do this, get into this industry for the right reasons. It's got to be a passion. It's got to be something that you're interested in. You want to kind of make a difference about, I think. I mean, that's definitely the purpose of Maverick to a point is to make a difference, is to give people jobs and training and give people opportunities. And I've said with people before that if it comes about that the brewery grows, and hopefully it does, and we continue to get bigger and what have you, but actually I continue to employ people that run the brewery, day-to-day operations, brewing, all that sort of stuff, but they're able to do it in the way of the ethos of the brewery, maintain the vision and have the same passion and all that sort of stuff. And I keep my day job and I kind of help manage the brewery from afar from my day job, and it ends up employing 5-6 people to do itself. I'm cool with that.
Yeah.
This brewery, it's not I've said this to some other people. This brewery, it's not a vanity project for me. Do you know what I mean? It's not kind of some people that open breweries. It's all about them and their beer, and it's all about them.
Why did you do it?
A couple of things is I'm not a very good employee, so I like to do things my own way. Hence the reason with the name Maverick is because I do just like to do things my own way. But also I've worked at and seen so many poor businesses, not brewing businesses, just normal businesses that are just a bit shit to their employees and a bit shit to the community around them. And I wanted to create something that did actually do good. It made a difference. It does some good in the world. And like I say, if it, I don't necessarily have to benefit from it, but it just happens to be in an industry and in something that I'm passionate about, which is making and drinking really good beer.
So beer-based philanthropy is where we're coming at, really, is that?
Oh, don't get me wrong. The business has to pay, watch its own face. I'm not bankrolling the place at all whatsoever. That's a really important part. Is the business has to pay for itself. So if you are going to get into it, and I know a couple of people that have opened breweries recently that have struggled, is you've got to think you've got to be able to sell your beer. For as much as you like making beer, for as much as you love brewing it, you've got to be able to run a business and then sell your beer. And, you know, some people don't like it, but sadly, social media is a massive part of.
Yeah, you do your socials
advertising.
really well, Martin. Really, really well, because you're constantly keeping people updated, getting nice photography out there. It's good.
But you've got to do it. You've got to do it. I think you can't. This is going to sound like we're really blowing our own trumpet, but you've got to get out there and tell people about you and what you're selling and what you're doing, because people aren't going to come and find you. Although we have had people come and find us, which has been again mind blowing.
Nice,
but you've just got to, and you've got to be constantly reminding people where you are, who you are, what you're doing. Like you're saying, telling people about events, and then, you know, you've seen some of the, you know, some of the brewing videos we've released and stuff like that, and you know, some of the videos of the tours, and you know, all that kind of thing. You've got to, So and selling it, you've got to be prepared to go out there and send people emails, go and visit bar owners, be friendly to people. You know, Joe Public come in, you've got to talk to them. You've got to be kind of that person there all the time.
Yep.
Like I said earlier, Hoddy, you know, you are, when you're running a small business, you are everything to everyone. You know, you're the marketer, you're the sales manager, you're the head brewer, doing everything. But and it's a balance. You do have to have everything in the right place for the whole system to work, don't you? But it's fantastic to hear that the beer's great, the business is on track, especially in the climate that we're in. How are you finding having opened a brewery in the back end of COVID, facing into a challenging financial view, as well as the government not really helping small breweries along the way, let's face it?
Not helping and trying to squash small breweries is maybe more of a word I would use.
I was being politically correct there, I think, but I don't know enough about it to know just how bad it is. But how have you found that? I mean, the fact that you're saying that business is washing its face despite all of that, put yourself 2 or 3 years down the road, you'd really hope that, and the government help you out, you'd hope you'd really succeed.
So I think really going strong on local has really helped. I think you're seeing it still now, and I think with any business, I think the strong ones and the good ones survive, and then the ones that aren't fit don't, unfortunately. I think from my point of view, I think what I'm seeing is, sadly, some other breweries are closing. You know, that's a sad reality, but there's no room for bad beer out there. There's also no room for badly financially managed breweries either. And I think with what we've seen with interest rates, cost of living, all that kind of stuff, that's shown any cracks in anyone's, you know, P&L and on their balance sheet of their brewery or their business. And I think what that's done from what I've seen is that's left volume in the market. So people that are still there can go and fill that volume. I definitely think there's a contraction in the market, but for me, it doesn't. And obviously I'm not massive, right? You know, you probably speak to Track or Pressure Drop or something like that, and they're like, oh yeah, you know, there's, you know, massive contraction and that kind of thing, but we're still small. But I think to a point, that volume is still there. It's when the other people go, it's who takes up that space, who takes up that volume that's left behind. So that's been, it's been okay. I mean, we're making plans now. We've had a brilliant summer. We've really kind of, from a tap room perspective, we've really found like a formula and like a mix for for our tap room now, with having we always have a food truck on a Saturday. Now we always have some live music on a Saturday. Through the summer on the bank holidays, we'll have like another food truck and live music on a Sunday, and sometimes on a Friday. That's helped massively, because you become a destination. People aren't just coming for some good beer, they're coming to a good environment. There's some free live music going on, you can get some great food, you can, where at the brewery where we are, whether you've seen, you can sit outside. We're in a bit of a sun trap where we are, and that's made a real difference for us, because it's not just a pub.
How's it been for those people? So you say you get live music in the food truck. How's that business been for them? Has that been good? Has it worked out for them, or what's the feedback?
The feedback's been really good, actually. I'm always really conscious, and I always we always advertise all of the vendors and all of the music acts that come and play to us.
Yeah, you do. Yeah,
because I think it's important. As I say to them,
yeah,
it's a symbiotic relationship, right? They do well, we do well. We do well, they do well.
Yeah.
And we've found over time which food vendors work for us.
Okay.
Which work with the beer and the food and service and turnaround and stuff. So yeah, matching that up. But yeah, generally they've all done really well. We've had a couple of Saturdays where the food trucks have just been completely overrun. We had one day where we were so busy, the food truck just wasn't geared up for it, and people were waiting like 45 minutes for food and stuff, because there were so many people, and they just literally didn't have enough people. There was, through the summer, actually, another story, there was one Saturday, not long after the part-time lad Charlie had been working for me. No particular Saturday, weather wasn't particularly outstanding, and I left him to do the tap room on his own on a Saturday. He'd done a few Saturdays with me, knew what he was doing. I thought, I'll just let you crack on and just do that. And I've been off somewhere to buy something else off Facebook Marketplace, because I love that. It was a heater, actually, funnily enough, in preparation for the winter. And while I was driving back, I was thinking, should I take this heater home and then just drop it over there on Sunday? I know, I'll just swing by, just drop it off on my way back. I'll just say hello to Charlie, just drop it off, it'll be fine. And I turned around the corner off the road into the car park. And as I came around the corner, I was confronted, people everywhere, like just cars, people piling out. And I couldn't even get into the car park with my car. And there was just people coming out the door. I reckon we must have had like 200 people there, 250 people.
Turn up.
I stopped. Yeah, I stopped. Oh God. I picked up my phone. I called my wife, went, I don't think I'm coming home. Put the phone down, parked my car on the road, and I came around the corner, and like Charlie was, it was like an octopus trying to like get beers like this. And it was like four or five people deep at the bar, and he just looked at me like that, like those with kids will know when your kid just looks at you in that frightened look.
Like, fuck you.
White, you see the white of the eyes,
yeah. Yeah, and that was our busiest day ever, and it was just mental. And that's the one thing I've learned about hospitality and stuff, is there is no rhyme or reason at all. You can be in there one day and it'll be one man and a dog, and then the following day it will be a bus load of 500 people will turn up, and there's just nothing in between. And you just, every day you go in and go, we could be really busy, or we could be sat here playing solitaire. Who knows?
Well, I'll tell you a story. So I went to a tap room 2 towns down in Paisley, right? And it was just a young girl, like you say, like just doing pints, and then she had to change a keg, right? But when she took the keg off, it just kept pumping gas, like it was like constant. And the guy's like, "That's weird. What's that noise?" And I'm like, looks at the regulator, and it's like a block of ice, this big tank. I was like, "Oh crap!" So just like she was on the phone to have her I need help sort of thing. And so I was like, fucking better go help her. So it's like, I can't get this thing to go back on. And I'm like, right, we need to try and work out, turn off the gas. But there was no shut off valves in. The only way you could turn off the gas was the main tank. So I was like, here, give us that bloody Sankey thing. Just like, both get it on a new fresh keg. And then it was like, everything starts balancing out again. But I was like, oh my word, poor lassie had been left on her own.
Yeah, I had that with Charlie. There was one thing I hadn't shown him how to do, which was to change over the CO2 bottle. And he was doing it was a Saturday must have been a Saturday. I just got this message going, there's no more beer coming out the taps. Help! So then via WhatsApp, it was a process of like deduction, like, right, okay, what was the last thing you did? Well, I changed this keg over and then it just stopped. Okay. Go over to the gas regulator, take a picture of that, and there it was on the red.
Zero.
On the needle. Oh.
Yeah.
Right. So what you need to do is you need to go over to my tool drawer, which is over on the brewery floor, get out the spanner, go back, see the big, someone that's never changed a CO2 canister over before.
Scary.
It's a bit of a daunting task, isn't it? If you literally have no idea.
He did it. He did it.
Even you might fit. It depends if how you can do your isolators, but if you can isolate, because all the other kegs could then backfeed pressure to when you're trying to hook it back in, sort of thing.
They eventually all
come down. Yeah.
So here you go. This is another joy of hospitality. So I did the tap room yesterday. Really good Friday. Loads of people in. It was great fun. Washed everything up, finished. Charlie again was opening up the tap room this morning at 2:00. I was coming a little bit afterwards because I had some jobs to do. And he just sent me this message going, all the power's off. I'm like, oh, okay, right. Have you tried this? You tried this? He's like, no.
The whole brewery power's off.
Well, no, it turns out it wasn't the whole brewery pack. It was just one sort of loop of sockets. Okay. I then later worked out eventually it was the bloody glass washer was tripping everything out. So our glass washer's blown up. So I've now got to replace the glass washer. But I've just had a WhatsApp from Charlie going, I really want the glass washer back. I don't know if you can see that. He just sent me a picture of loads of glasses on the table. Yeah. So I said to him, I said, mate, sorry, here's a washing up bowl.
Hand washing 200 glasses is no fun. No. Yeah, that's no fun.
I'm really sorry, mate, but I'm not, even if I know it's the pump, I'm not fixing that at like 4:00 on a Saturday afternoon. It's just not happening.
Well, Hoddy, it's been really excellent hearing about some of the stories and the adventure you've been on with the brewery. Let's talk a bit more about the beer then. Have you started tapping up anyone for collabs?
Yeah, so one thing I will say is actually, and it really is true, the brewing industry really is as friendly as everyone says it is. I've been genuinely amazed how wonderful other breweries and other brewery owners have been, and how it's like super supportive they've been. So we've hopefully got some collabs, hopefully lightly penciled in, maybe. I'm not going to say who with yet because they're still lightly penciled in. But we're making some really big plans for our first birthday in May for next year, and really hoping we can punch significantly, in my view, significantly above our weight and pull off some epic collabs for our first birthday. That would be really cool. There's a few other friends in the industry that I'm planning on getting some collabs with, but everyone is just so busy. That's the one thing I've learned, is just finding the time for some of this stuff is super, super tricky.
Do you end up having to determine like a collab timetable for the year, pretty much, and have almost like you must be thinking at least 6 months ahead, right, just to be able to fit stuff in?
Yeah, 100%. That's probably been something else I hadn't really truly appreciated, is how much planning you have to put into your brewing schedule, because you know it's not like when you're home brewing, you're like, I'm going to make this I'm going to make this beer next weekend. And you get there on the Saturday or whatever, and you're like, oh, I'm a bit short of this, a bit short. I know, I'll just sub this around, or I'll just do this. It's fine. But when you need like 200 kilograms of grain to make a beer, and you need, you know, a 10 hectoliter handbag of liquid yeast, I call it a handbag because if you ever, and anyone's never seen it, but WHC, who I buy my liquid yeast from, it comes in, I call it a handbag. It's a big plastic handbag. It's like a massive, great big thing. So you do have to plan ahead. You do have to kind of go, right, what am I making then? What do we need to do then? How long is it going to take to condition? Am I going to have enough kegs? So I have to order kegs in. And then you then try and get someone else that's trying to do that. And then you go, should we make a beer together that's out of their schedule and out of your schedule? So it does take a lot of planning.
I've got a question. Thinking about starters, right? Those big bags of yeast starters.
Yeah.
Could you just like take a Firmzilla or like a sort of 23 litre, 25 litre, 30 litre fermenter, just take off some of your work and then just pitch like a couple of packets of dry yeast, and then that be sufficient to create like a massive starter?
I've thought about it, Owen. I'll be honest, I have thought about it. But for me to buy a wet pitch of Sanders, for example, for 10 hectolitres, so 1,000, so enough live wet yeast for me to pitch into 1,000 litres, cost me 45 quid.
That's so cheap.
Not that bad, really.
No.
Yeah, but 2 packs of dried yeast and a Firmzilla.
No, it's time. That's time.
Yeah,
wow.
That's
and then it doesn't
hassle.
and then it doesn't work.
And a potential route for infection, and you know,
and as well, you couldn't grow that much healthy live yeast from a couple of packs of like Verdant, for example.
It just wouldn't be sufficient.
Liters. No, you'd need to build it like 3 or 4 times and stuff like that.
You'd be better off just harvesting your yeast sort of thing and then washing
top cropping or whatever.
Yeah, well, yeah, you can top crop, but I've got our first DPV now. So in theory, conical tank. So in theory, I can do some yeast harvesting. I am looking at things at the moment, trying to work out how I could achieve that. So you can do what we call cone to cone transfer. So you can literally get to the good bit, the best yeast you want, which is in the middle of the cone. And in theory, I could push that out into one of my other fermenters and then drop some work straight onto it and then ferment that way. So I could at least get sort of, 2 turns out of one pitch.
Yeah.
If I then get a second FV, second DPV, I could then do cone to cone. So if you plan it correctly, you could literally just bounce it between and get 8 or 9 generations out of it.
Yeah.
In the case of Verdant, like 50, and then you end up with a completely unique yeast.
Yeah, exactly.
Keep going. Amazing. And from memory, what gala are you on now?
Oh God. If I took out the beers I've ditched, probably about 29, I think. Something like that, about 29. So
okay.
Probably half of those being core beer?
No, less than that.
So what are you brewing? Are you brewing once, twice a week?
I'm probably brewing, oh God, no. It varies massively between, sadly, on my availability of time. So it might be, if I know I've got a few weekends, I might back-to-back brew Saturday, Sunday, and then maybe take a day off from my day job to then go and work in the brewery for a day and then brew again. And then that might actually, because of the volumes we're doing at the moment, we're not canning yet, so we're just kegging. Most of that is going through the tap room. Some's going out to trade. So we'll put that through. That will go into, say, that might fill 40, 50, 30 litre kegs or whatever.
Yep.
That will then work its way through. I might then just brew once, say the beginning of the following month, because we've got a good stock of beer.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not as regular as I'd like. That's what I'd like to get to. Kind of that, brewing once a week, that turnover, that kind of hitting that drumbeat. I think that probably would break me as a human being if I had to brew that much every week.
What sort of hours are you putting in at the minute? Because obviously you said you're still doing your full-time, day job.
Yeah.
But what does the average week look like as far as how much time you then have to spend
So
at the brewery? Most
yeah.
of it must be happening at the weekends, presumably, I guess.
Weekends and evenings, weekends and evenings. So I will, on a Monday, I'll go over and probably do 8 to 11 on a Monday after work. And that'll be anything from transfers, cleaning, other, kegging, stuff like that. I'll probably then go back at least for an hour a day on every day that week, because I'll have to go back and do some gravity checks or go and meet a delivery person. If they're dropping off a pallet of grain, I've got to be there to open up to get that in. And then because every time you have deliveries, right, and because it's business deliveries, they just turn up whenever the hell they like.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll get a phone call in the middle of a conference call on the day job. They're like, "Oh, hello, mate. I'm outside your brewery. I've got a ton of grain here for you." Okay, wait there. Hang on a minute. Sorry, the dog's choking on something. I've got to leave the call. Bye.
They haven't caught on yet. They don't know about your illicit second job.
No, they don't. And in a weird kind of way, it's not really my day job's business, really. To be fair, it's non-competing. It's completely different. There's no kind of conflict of interest from that perspective. But what I do in my spare time, is my time, really. I've always been with my day job. Always been a firm believer in work is work, home life is home life. So I've always had a separate work phone from my own phone. And I've always kept a really strong separation. I'm not friends with anyone from my day job. I'm not connected to social media or anything like that.
Fuck those guys.
Very clear divisions.
I've always been that way. I think very, very few people that I've worked with am I like friends with outside of work. Maybe it's because I'm a wanker, I don't know, but
you seem all right, Hoddy.
Yeah.
So listen,
but just to finish answering your question, so then I'll be over hours during the week, and then I will generally do the tap room on a Friday usually. Charlie will do the tap room on a Saturday, and then it's between the two of us on who does the Sunday. And then usually there's one brew in there in one way, shape or form. So usually what I'll do is I'll brew on a Saturday. So I'll go in at 6. I'll get on with the brew. Charlie will come in and open the tap room for 2. I'll aim to then have the brew day wrapped up by kind of 4 o'clock, because that's usually when the proper public start turning up. And it's safer then, right? Because the brewery's like right in the middle of the tap room, right? It's, and I don't really want hot water and stuff like that splashing around while there's Joe Public around. So I aim to get the kind of brew day knocked out by sort of 4 o'clock. I'll sit down and have a quick beer. I'll sit down and have a quick beer with Charlie. We'll catch up, and then I'll bug out and come home, and then back over for 2 o'clock on the Sunday. Depends if we're brewing again on the Sunday or not, or a bit of packaging and stuff like that. So yeah, it's quite busy.
So it's a 60-hour week then, Hoddy?
Yeah, it's probably something in that region. If we're really busy, it's a bit more than that, because there might be some deliveries in there as well. I might get one of the bars that takes our beer might send me a WhatsApp, go, Jesus Christ, I'm about to run out of some beer. Can you deliver me a couple of kegs? So there might be a few drops in there as well.
Are you seeing that time as work at the minute, or are you sort of kind of like in the mindset of this is what I would be doing as a hobby anyway? How is that working in your head at the moment? Is it because obviously a lot of people might be thinking 60-hour week, well fuck that, like I wouldn't be able to cope with that. So
but you're enjoying
that's how I'm getting. Is it because it's like the passion is still there for the brewing and everything, that it doesn't feel like you're just flogging yourself to
No,
get it done.
I mean, it doesn't yet. I'm probably, most would say I'm probably still in the honeymoon period.
Yeah.
But no, I'm still doing it because I love it and I enjoy it. I mean, even with my day job, I've always had the saying that anywhere I've worked, the moment I stop enjoying what I'm doing, it's time to move on. I'm quite lucky. I think I'm quite lucky to be able to say I don't feel like I've ever worked a day in my life. And I mean that in the way that I've always loved and enjoyed what I've done. I think once and this, I think this applies to anyone, once you start feeling like you're going to work and you're working, then you need to go and find something else to do. Because I think you should love what you do. If the days should disappear like that. You should, everything you do, you should love. Don't get me wrong, there is always some shit stuff you've got to do in your day job. It's just the way it is. But as a whole, you should always love what you do. Because I say, love what you do and do what you love. So, that's a kind of, a mantra I've always tried to live by. So it doesn't feel like I'm working too much. I am a bit of a worker, well, not workaholic, but I don't like to sit still. I'll put context into this a little bit. So the building the brewery's in, I'm in one half of the building because it's a very big building, 4,500 square foot, right?
Yeah, I was going to say, you're still married.
Yeah. Well, see, my wife, she has the other half of the building.
My wife.
Actually, she's my landlord because she's got her name on the head of the lease, actually, so I have to pay her rent every month. But she doesn't remind me about that.
This is how you do the this is a tax dodge just going on.
This is pillow talk. Pillow talk in the Hoddinott household. Oh, you owe me rent.
Yeah.
Is there anything I could do instead?
Stop snoring. That's what you could do. But she's a food technology teacher. Focus, goddamn you. She's a food technology teacher, so she works 3 and a bit days a week. And then the other, 3 and a bit days of the week, she's working at the cookery school, teaching kids how to cook and adults how to cook and, doing all that crazy stuff as well. So we're both hard-working people that believe you only achieve things if you work hard. They don't come to you, you've got to go to them. So that's just what we've always done. So
when you train her up in the brewery so she can do the brew school.
Do you know what the funny thing is though? She hates this. She hates beer and she hates the smell of boiling work. She hates it.
And she's right next door.
Yeah, I've had to put in not elaborate but very specific ducting, taking all of the steam away from the brew house to the far end of the building.
Wow.
And then the wall we built is very, very tightly sealed. So yeah, it'll never cross over.
But you got to keep her happy, mate.
Well, this is it, and for her benefit is she's got a handyman on site all the time. So I think tomorrow I'm hanging up a TV for her in the
I was like, who's that?
I was going to say that's a bit expensive, but it's you.
Yeah.
We figured that out now. Yeah, very good.
That's right. Yeah, exactly.
So, guys, should we go to the commercial break? Hoddy, do you want to do the honours?
That's a good idea.
Yeah, talk about the commercial.
Let's go to the commercial break.
Very professional.
He knows the score.
Yeah.
Professional. I've got a running start on mine, so I don't mind going first.
Yeah, we're all into it.
As well.
Yeah, good.
We
call,
might have all had
Owen.
an
That was
empty
well timed.
glass. Yeah, so I'm drinking. I jumped on the Verdant Black Friday sale.
Oh, did you?
50% off for anyone that did jump on that, and I'm going to give a shout out to Brett Harmon for pinging me a message to say, dude, if you've missed it in the chat, there's a 50% off sale at Verdant. So 24 cans later.
24 cans, yes.
Yeah, I was like, to be fair, I was like, when does this ever happen? I'm stocking up.
Yeah,
so, go big or go home.
You don't see that sort of deal from them very often, do you?
So 18 of those cans were double IPAs.
Woo!
So that'll keep me going for a while. And actually,
Yes,
the one that I'm
Owen.
drinking is not the double IPA, but is the IPA, the 6.5% IPA from it's the Craft Beer Channel and Verdant collab, which is called Definitely Not a Cult.
I had that at
Which
the
looks like that.
Channel party.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, nice.
it's a good beer, that one.
Which is a hot side Brew 1 Citra Mosaic, cold side same, except they decided to reorder them, so it's Citra Mosaic Brew 1. Don't know why they did that. Maybe it's the amount that they put in, not sure. 6.5%, super hazy, nice head
Oh wow,
on there.
that looks pillowy.
Really pillowy. And it's a banger. I mean, what do you expect, right? It's Verdant making a hazy IPA. It's
And
just the
Brew
juice.
Brew One is mega, right? I've got
It
I've
is.
got a Brew One Citra beer in tank as we speak right now. It's dry hopped it a couple of days ago. It's smelling just like pineapple chunks. It's great.
Yeah, I've got pineapple. I've got a little bit of like, kind of getting like a cantaloupe melon thing. I'm getting just loads of pineapple. A little bit dank from that mosaic. That's probably the cantaloupe bit coming through. Oh yeah, I'm really getting that pineapple melon thing on the taste as well. Well, that's what I've got in my head anyway. But really lovely, like nicely balanced, not too sweet. Not really that bitter either, but it's an absolute cracker. I'll give that a good 4.4 out of 5.
Ooh.
That's
Yeah.
a hell of a
Out
low
the gate
score.
on that one. Jeez.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right.
That is right. That is right up my street. Well done, Craft Beer Channel. Cheers to you.
Do you want to go next, Andy?
Yes. Right. So, on the back of the boys, all raving about
Oh,
Flock
Flock.
and the
Nice.
was it
Nice.
a commercial type or lip service, and it's a 3.4, so it's the new tax efficient
Yeah.
pale ale. This thing's beautiful, right? So label Citra T90, Citra Cryo, and Mosaic, and it is just pillowy. Just it's and for 3.4%, they've got the body just smack on, like so crushable. Just like that kind of light and fluffy sort of airy sort of thing, but then you get that Citra Mosaic juice that it's just it's really tangible on just the flavor that comes through, and just this is I would buy it like I don't normally buy. I would normally get like 2 or 3 of the same beer, but I would get a 12 pack of that. Like, yeah, and if I had a keg of it, I'd be like amazing. So yeah, very good.
Kind of following that trend
Sweet.
that we kind of went through, and in terms of that kind of summer low ABV, hazy pale thing. It's interesting that the government kind of create these constructs around beer duty taxation structure, and it's all of a sudden breweries are getting really bloody good at making beers at 3.4%.
Yeah,
And it's kind of and actually I think that's not a bad thing. That's kind of that's cool, because you didn't really see much of that 2 years ago.
No,
You had like Colonel making a table beer, and that was probably about it. And now everyone's pumping out table beers.
Yeah, but this is just such a consumable product now as well.
What's the lowest ABV beer that you have on, Hoddy? Have you got anything sub 4% already? Or?
So that's a really good point. So the reason you're seeing a lot of these breweries knock out these lower ABV beers is to help their average hectoliter of pure alcohol production annually. So all the breweries now, your tax bracket is based upon how many liters of pure alcohol you produce a year.
Really?
Yeah, so it's not on volume anymore. It's on pure alcohol you produce. So that's
if you're
why
a barrel aged type person that's just doing pure
You say
You are-
overtone.
problems.
Overtone and verdant spill must be massive.
Yes,
Yeah.
you are FUCKED.
Yeah, big time.
Because, and that's basically what it's on. So now every month my duty return is based on how much pure alcohol I've produced, and then that is then averaged over the year. So then next year I'll then go into a different tax bracket if I've gone up or down that scale. So the reason why you're seeing people produce these lower ABV beers is to try and keep their average down so they stay out of going up to the next tax bracket.
Out of interest, Hoddy.
The only people that benefit out of that tax change are the big guys. So
yeah, because they just produce low
percentage.
percentage.
Like 4%-ish.
So there's a good reason why. I'm pretty sure isn't it Carlsberg has just miraculously dropped down to 3.4%.
Yeah.
If you look in the supermarket, you'll notice there's quite a few big breweries and big beers there. All their beers have mysteriously just dropped below 3.5% into that lower bracket.
That's mad.
I can't confirm this if this is exactly right, but I'm pretty sure I read somewhere, talking to someone else, that for Carlsberg alone in the UK, the change to the taxation, moving it down to 3.4, saves them something like 16 million a year in tax.
Probably
Probably
good for like a reduction in domestic violence as well.
Well,
so I've produced, we literally just on tap just now, our first beer that's 4%. So it's 4%. Takes a little bit of inspiration from Sonoma, if I'm honest. So mashed nice and high. It's got a big final gravity of like 10-15, plenty of bitterness, a shit ton of mosaic in it. It's just on the label above the bar. It's literally, you might have seen it. It just says hops, mosaic, 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 mosaic. So it is a bit 80s squash court, but
Yum.
it's just sweaty. But that's our first kind of lower ABV with a view that I'm going to shift it down to 3.4 when I brew it again. I wanted to see how the kit reacted and how the beer came out.
Get some Idaho 7 in with that mosaic.
Yeah, that's a good shout.
Telling you, I did the boys was at the mosaic Idaho 7 low ABV, and it's just the flavour you get off it's incredible.
Yeah. I've got some
Orizaka, Hoddy.
Orizaka, yes, which we'll get to. So that's the kind of lowest ABV I've done, but it's a misconception that not enough people in the public domain know that the taxation changes. The only people they benefit is the big breweries. It's the only people it benefits. What they said is that they've reduced overall taxation for breweries by changing the rules, by changing the banding. What they didn't mention was that they actually put the taxation up at the same time. So any breweries that did see a reduction, you've lost the reduction straight away because the tax has gone up. So it sucks basically.
And it's a bit of a shame because I guess it's putting off craft breweries and smaller breweries from producing higher ABV, more interesting beers, doesn't it? Ultimately, because it's they're literally having to make a bit of a commercial sacrifice.
Yeah.
This might be a little bit boring question when we start getting into taxation conversations. But is it the amount that you produce or the amount that you sell? And are you able to write off losses?
Oh, you can write off losses. If stuff's going down the drain, then you just need to have the right records and you can ullage anything that you pour down the drain. That's not a problem. You're liable for the duty on any alcohol, the point at which it crosses what's called your duty point. So within your AWRS forms, your alcohol wholesalers retail scheme registration, you define where your duty point is. So I can produce beer, put it into kegs, it can go in my cold store, and I don't have to pay the duty on it yet because it's in what they call duty suspension. So it's there. The taxman knows it's there, but the duty's not due yet because it's not crossed the duty point. My duty point is the point at which I put a tap that keg, or leave the cold store to be delivered. As soon as it crosses that point, the duty is then liable on it.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay. Thanks for
Um,
clarifying that exceptionally boring question.
Again,
Thank
we
you.
touched on this earlier. Things you have to learn and know and understand about when you own a brewery
Commercial brewing, yeah.
is paying tax. And
Yeah.
I'll tell you now, he doesn't mess about. When he wants his money,
No. Yeah, they don't. They do
and
not.
if you don't submit your return every month by a certain date, you get a fine. So every month you've got to submit your return by the 15th, I think it is. Just like to point out, when they changed all these taxation rules, they told us about what they were going to be 2 weeks before the change came in place. When the change did come in place, there was no information. So there was a couple of breweries everywhere that couldn't even submit their duty returns for months because the website crashed, the informational guidance was wrong. They ran some webinars that went hideously sideways. So it was not great. It's settling down a bit now, but anyway, I'll rant about that. When I run a brewery tour, I probably do a 25-minute section about how unfair microbrewery taxation is. But anyway,
well, what are you drinking anyway?
PowerPoint presentation on brewery taxation.
So I am drinking another one I grabbed because I love Columbus as well as loving a bit of Spectre Mosaic. I love Columbus. Poddy Brew Co, the Columbus IPA, because it's just out and out
Pure
dank.
Yeah.
Pure dank, pure dank. I love it. It's kind of, there's almost a little bit of ashtray in there. It's just utter dankness. It's just wicked.
Get the bong out.
Yeah, it's like bong water. It's great. Yeah, I love it.
Ben doesn't taste like bong water then.
Yeah, don't drink the bong water.
Don't do that.
That might have to be a name of a beer, actually. Bong water. I quite like that.
Don't drink the bong water.
Columbus IPA.
I think you go Mosaic Columbus, big dank sticky monster for that one.
Yeah.
Strata.
Yeah. Mark's out of 5, Martin, for that one.
4.4 as well, I think.
4.4. Wow. Big scores.
I just love it. I love that Columbus beer. It's. I've got some ideas for a beer like that for myself, so that's me.
Yeah. Cool. It's just me left then, isn't it? I think so. I've also got a Polly's beer. It's something a bit different though.
Love.
So
this is your calendar.
I said I was not going to buy an advent calendar this year, and then the owner of my local bottle shop used his canny wiles to sort of go, message me directly on WhatsApp, like, oh yeah, I see you're not on the list for an advent calendar this year. What's going on, fella? I was like, yeah, a bit tight for cash at the minute, mate. Sorry. It was like, oh, you've got 25 quid in store credit for your loyalty points. I was like,
oh dear,
sold. Send me the calendar. So anyway, this is the day 2. We've got a sweet cherry imperial goes from Polly's brewery, and that's it in the glass.
So wow,
very bright red. I could do with a light behind it because you're not quite seeing how gloriously scarlet red this is, but so it is really kind of sweet cherry flavor and aroma wise. It's like that kind of cherry syrup that they'll put on like ice cream. It's kind of like that sort of flavor, with just that very slight savory note from the salt, which I think kind of helps it not be too cloying. It's really nice. I think the one thing I would say with this is like the carbonation is a bit on the low end for a goes. I feel like it needs a bit more sparkle to it to really bring it alive a little bit. So I think that's slightly kind of just left it lacking a little bit for me as far as the giving it that real kind of effervescence in the glass and to really bring that flavor alive. And I'd probably prefer it if it was a little bit more like sour cherry as opposed to sweet cherry as well, personally. But it's nice enough. I think it's just not quite where it could be if it was a little bit more tart and a little bit more carbonated. So I'll go 3.5 for this one. So decent, but yeah, could be better, I think.
Because true to style, it should be sour, right? Goes should be sour.
Yeah, and that was kind of like, because I think, yeah, okay, you've said it's sweet cherry, but it's still a goes, so it should really have a little bit of, tartness to it as well. So yeah.
There's that Polly's inconsistency bit that Hoddy was talking about. Interesting. And how big is it? You said Imperial.
Yeah, I mean it's not massively strong, so it's 7.2%. So
okay,
yeah, it's fairly big, but I think I mean how high ABV the Imperial goes go up to usually. I think they've probably seen them kind of 9%.
10%.
Well,
I think Brew. Who is it that does a lot of Imperial gazes? Is it Brew York tend to do a few, maybe? I don't know. Scraping the barrel there. So Hoddy, we talked a little bit about your guiles, the amount of beer you've been making. What styles have you been predominantly producing, and where are you also heading in inspiration? What sort of styles are you hoping to make over the next kind of 6 months, let's say?
Tried to be as broad a range as possible. I mean, but I'll be honest, I love a hazy pale and a hazy IPA, right? I mean, I love hops. I should probably write that somewhere on a board somewhere in the brewery. Just I love hops. So a lot of the beer we've been making has been very hop focused. Obviously we've got a Kolsch that we have been making semi regularly that we've had on tap. Got an American porter, so porter but with not loads, but just a really light vein of kind of American hops running through it. I think that's Centennial and Mosaic. I think we've got in that American porter. Not loads, but just enough to just ride through it and just kind of make it a little bit more interesting. What else have we had through there? I've had a saison, so like a Diastatica strain, but so it's farmhouse yeast by WHC, sorry. So that was just SARS, just a bit of SARS in the background, but just a really nice, light, bright, zesty farmhouse saison that went down really well through the summer. We talked earlier about a stout that I did at Homebrew that I'm on the Homebrew kit that I'm thinking about maybe we might try and push through. I've been a little bit reluctant to do a double IPA or really push the boundaries yet until I feel like I properly know the kit well enough that I know I can push it. I mean, I don't think we're there yet from a water treatment perspective. I haven't got the beers. I don't feel like I've got any of the beers where I want them to be yet. So I still think there's plenty of room to push and pull the water treatment, mash temperatures and stuff to really dial the beers into where I want to go to.
Because you were saying, you were talking about salt, like just sodium chloride adding. It was a top tip you gave to us. Was it 5 grams for a 23 litre batch or so? And that's in the boil, wasn't it?
Yeah, definitely. Because because I treat everything individually, so I don't use a lot of brewers. Well, not a lot, but you can buy something called AMS, which is basically it's like a blend. Basically, it's a blend of all your chlorides and your sulfites and everything. I've got calcium chloride granules, salt, gypsum, magnesium, and I add all of those individually to basically dial the water profile in exactly where I want it. But again, downside to commercial level is all about little tweaks, because you don't want to push it too much in one direction, because you might end up having to pour it down the drain. So slowly pushing things and pushing towards it, although I do feel a little bit inspired again after doing the Homebrew recipe with with Charlie the other week, and I was talking to him earlier today saying we need to do another homebrew. we're gonna do another homebrew batch, and actually I'm going to use that to see how far I can push the water treatment.
Yeah.
So mashing and everything else aside and recipe, I'm going to really kind of push the water treatment really far and see how far we can push it, because I think that might leap us forward a bit quicker in beer development, if you know what I mean, and in trying to get things where we want to get them to.
Quick question, just on your water, how are you treating it? Are you just straight off the tap or filtering
Straight
or
off the tap, straight off the tap, but through a filter.
carbon?
Yeah, so carbon filter straight into the hot liquor tank. I'm treating all the water in the mash, so I'm not treating the hot liquor tank.
Yeah,
And
because
then
you can get this, but you can leave.
Yeah, it settles out and you get stratification, and it just settles out, and you end up with salt in the bottom of the hot liquor tank.
Exactly.
And then I'm adding more salts into the boil after that as well. So I'm adding more salts to get that proper final kind of profile that I want to come out in the final beer. I've never made a sour at home. I've never made a quick sour or a kind of long sour, either using Philly sour or sort of doting lactobacillus in the kettle and stuff. I've been toying with the idea of that.
Yeah, get Philly. If you're gonna do it.
So there's a really good brewery not far from me that makes some really good sours. I'm sure Owen knows, but Mackie in Portsmouth, and they do some really, really good sours. So I'm trying to kind of get in touch with those guys to have a bit of a chat about, just to understand a bit more about how they approach it, how they do it, to see what I can learn and kind of take away before I kind of go and have a stab at it.
Yeah, I've met those guys, and they seem like a blast. Seem like some really nice guys. I don't think they've been around for too long, have they?
No, they're relatively new. I mean, I had one of their sours. It's Strawberry Space Dust, I think it was called. Oh, it was mega, really, really good, really nicely balanced fruited sour. Not too heavy on the lactose and stuff. Do you know what I mean? It was just bang on. So yeah, I'd love to. I need to try and get hold of those guys and just see if I can go and hang out for an afternoon and have a bit of a chat and exchange some ideas.
Get a recipe.
No, not get a recipe. It's just more about just how do they approach stuff, right? It's kind of like
the methods, the
and it's
ingredients,
like how at what point do you find is a good pH for getting the right level of sourness? What temperature do you run the fermentation at? How do you find about pitch rate? What do you do about adding fruit? Do you calculate the fruit into the final ABV? At what point do you add the fruit? It's more around those kind of things, those little tricks. That's where the real key is. And that's probably another difference between home brewing and commercial brewing is the recipe is the recipe. It's all the little bits in between.
It just saves a lot of trial and error, doesn't it, ultimately? Because you could just try and do it yourself, but you're going to go 3, 4, 5 batches before you figure out the right way to do it. So if you can sort of hack that and by chatting to someone that does it really well, it makes a lot of sense. I'd say Marky are probably one of those sort of hidden gems of breweries. For people that haven't heard of them, go check them out. They are making some really solid, really amazing beer.
Yeah,
a little bit like Bullhouse. We did that review of their beer recently, and they're producing some fantastic beer over in Belfast. People probably haven't heard of them, but again, good example of some great beer.
Yeah, definitely. It's that again. I said it before, and it's even at the homebrew level it's all about learning from each other, because there might even be some stupid little things that I've learned that I could share with someone else, and they're like, oh, I didn't think of that. And again, that's the great thing about that. One of the things, because it's where I came from, it's been really important to me, is I've started a homebrew club. So at Maverick, we have a homebrew club that every last Thursday of the month. We've had about 5 or 6 meets now. We've done one challenge, which is where I gave everyone some. I don't remember what yeast it was I gave them now. Oh, that's right. I gave everyone a small sachet of Kolsch yeast, and I sent everyone away to go and make a Kolsch, which they brought back sort of 2 months later, and we had a big group tasting. I set everyone the challenge of making a Christmas beer. So in a couple of weeks, we're all meeting up and everyone's bringing along their Christmas beers. But it's just been great. You know, we've got 12, 14 people bring their own beers along, share them, you know, and it's just great seeing the guys getting feedback off each other and exchanging ideas. Oh, you know, because we've now got a is it Slack? I think the app, the bit of software, we've now got a Slack group with all the homebrewers in it, and it's great. I can just sit there, I can just watch all the guys just chattering between each other, going, oh, you know, I'm making this, or I've made one of these, and I saw some people are sharing ideas about how to make jackets for their grandfathers. So there's one guy that's got this big roll of foam now, and he's like dishing out these jackets for their grandfather and stuff. It's mega. So yeah, love it.
No,
Very good
cool.
turnout for a homebrew club. You got 12, 14 people turning up already.
Yeah, no.
So yeah, well done.
It's been really, really good. It's been really, really good. And the quality of beer is so good. Do you know, it's like homebrewing now is not what it was 20 years ago.
Yeah, 100%.
We got this one guy, I won't mention his name, but he's a really good homebrewer. And for about the second meet, he brought along, people have brought, you know, we call it run what you've brung. So people bring in homebrews from home. And this guy was like, oh, well, actually, I made this sherry. Would you like to try it? We're like, sherry? What? And oh my God, this thing was amazing. Absolutely amazing. And I didn't realize like I can't even remember now how you make it, but it's not like mashing and fermenting or distilling or stuff. It's very, very specific. He then like later dropped in, he said, oh yeah, I won it wasn't like the US National Homebrew Comp, but it was like a big regional like homebrew comp in the US. He sent it over and he won bloody gold medal for it, won first place with this sherry. I mean, it's epic. Really, really good. But yeah, I mean, it's just brilliant. We've got people making tiny little stovetop, like 5-litre batches, and we got another guy that's got this 200-litre kind of homemade 3-vessel system and stuff, and everything in between. It's mega. Love it.
Yeah, I love homebrew clubs. They're such a weird collection of people that all just come together with the love of beer and making beer. I've not been showing my homebrew club much love recently, actually, but I need to get
everyone
back there.
Everyone should do that. Show some love to your homebrew club, definitely.
I kind of have to because I run my one. I've got no choice.
Yeah, you're sort of obliged. Obliged.
You say that, Rich. Actually, you're quite right because the homebrew club's held in my brewery, so I've kind of got to be there.
Yeah, it's by default now, isn't it? Really. So
yeah. So there you go. So you can add that to the list of work, right? So one Thursday every month, I go over to the brewery, open up at 7, and we're there for a couple of 3 hours.
Good way to get people in, though, to the tap room, and I assume you sell a few of your own beers along the way as well. Or...
No, actually, no, because everyone else brings so many. No, everyone brings many beers along.
That's kind of like part and parcel of our club because we're hosted at the local bottle shop that sells really good advent calendars. So I guess kind of the unwritten agreement is that we all turn up and have a couple of beers from the bar. And then we'll get stuck into the homebrew sort of thing.
I mean, all the guys, fair. They do come into the tap room at different times, so they come through at different times and stuff like that. So
regular patrons anyway. So yeah,
that's right. Yeah. Exactly.
Well, the place that we go for the homebrew club, which is a relatively small craft beer bar, they let us in on a Monday, which is the one day that they're not open, because it's so small. It used to be a butcher's. It's called the Butcher's Hook in Southampton. If anyone's local or is in Southampton, well worth seeing. They always got great beers in there, but it's very, very small, and I'm not sure they could really host us on a night where they're actually open. So we're not obliged to buy any beer, even if we wanted to, which is a bit of a shame. But talking of great beer, Hoddy, I think there was something you wanted to donate to our listeners.
Wow. So you all know I'm a caring, sharing kind of person.
Okay,
And yeah, that's right. And obviously, my roots are firmly grounded in homebrewing and the homebrew community. And obviously, what gave me a real kind of kick on going into or leaping into this hobby that's got out of hand, as I like to describe it, into commercial brewing was happened to be winning this funny tiny little homebrew comp somewhere that was being held somewhere. Little thing.
one of the best in the year, I heard.
Yeah.
I tell you what, in some ways, I'm kind of glad I didn't make it along for the tasting. Actually, I know I kind of did consider trying to come along for it at one point. I think that would have been even more bizarre. But yeah, so hopefully the fairies have managed to work their magic, and hopefully you will be able to go out and buy the recipe for my homebrew recipe probably about now.
Like magic, it appears in the comments a link to the Malt Miller's recipe kit for drawing pictures of mountaintops.
Yeah, so this
formerly
is
known as
strong words said softly. So so this is the recipe. Basically, this is the recipe that we managed to win the comp with, that is now morphed and turned into this beer now, which we're currently producing commercially. Will be coming out. It was supposed to be coming out in cans around about now, but unfortunately that's been delayed till the new year. But it will be coming out in cans in the new year as well. I hope you like it. I hope you enjoy it.
Give us a little flavour of kind of, well, we know it was for the Unity Conflux comp.
Yeah.
So we kind of, for those that have been following along with the podcast for a while, know that was kind of, given the parameters we gave for that competition, with kind of really hazy pale ale, akin to Conflux. Give us a little flavour, Hoddy, in terms of what that beer is about and what makes it unique, and just why you love it.
Wow. So it's got loads of Azaka in it, and I do love a bit of Azaka. So it's 100% Azaka in the whirlpool, which I think adds a really, really nice kind of overripe mango kind of papaya kind of thing going on. So when you make it, if you taste the wort after you've whirlpooled it, don't be put off, because the Azaka can be it can be quite overripe. So it, with that grist and stuff, you can kind of think, oh, this is a bit
brash.
Yeah, no, not even brash. It just can come across to be almost a bit too juicy, or almost a bit kind of like it's kind of over fermented fruit kind of thing. But don't worry when you do the dry hop, because there's more citra goes into the dry hop than Azaka. It just kind of balances it out. So there's kind of more citra in there than Azaka, and then there's just a tiny little bit of mosaic at the back end just to give a bit of sweat to it all, just to balance it out. But the citra really gives it a nice a really nice lift. The grist is quite simple. The one thing I'll definitely say about commercial brewing and stuff and everything as well is sometimes those simplest grists just work the best. Every time I build a recipe, I ask myself the question every time: what is that grain doing? What is it contributing? It has to be contributing something. If you can't justify why it's there, it shouldn't be. So this is, I mean, if you read the words, I can't remember all of the words exactly off the top of my head, but I think we've shared the words that are going to go in on the side of the can when we produce it.
It's quite a complex grist in that. When I seen it on the malt roller.
Well, it's not.
Not really.
Well,
no,
it's just, it's interesting the fact that you're using Marisota and Golden Promise. So
that's what I was
like. 50-50 blend? Is that pretty much what
you're
going for?
It's less than that. No, it's less than that. So I really love extra pale. But what I find is with GP, you just get that extra bit of breadiness, just a bit of kind of complexity.
Sweet breadiness. Yeah,
Yeah.
sweet.
But not too much. I'll be honest, a lot of my beers, I play around with the cut of Extra Pale and Golden Promise, and I move them around. And I do that with a lot of my other beers that I make now. Is I play around with that cut. I've started using
Maris I find super bready. Like, that is crazy. Like, malty is how it, whereas Golden Promise I get like this real sweet malt sort of thing coming through with Golden Promise.
Yeah, definitely. But that's where I find if I use just Golden Promise on its own, it's too much with this recipe when I played around when I was developing it. And if I did just Extra Pale, it lacked that depth. So I played around with having, using that bit more Golden Promise just gives that bit more complexity and flavor. And, definitely people should try that if you've not tried cutting those two across each other. I'm playing around now with using some heritage malts instead of Golden Promise. So I'm using like Plumage Archer and Marisota number 19. And some of those others now in place of Golden Promise, and then cutting those across either lager malt or Extra Pale as well.
I mean, it looks like an amazing recipe, Hoddy. Fermented out with saturated, so it's a 5% hazy hoppy pale ale. You said you love hops. It looks like a really nice juicy beer. And thank you for sharing it with us. And for anyone that wants to go check it out, you can go to the Malt Miller. You can more or less see the recipe. But you can also buy the kit as well, which works out really nicely. Big shout out to Stiffo, the Malt Miller, for sorting that as well. And for Rich, Tricky, for doing the legwork with Stiffo on that.
Yeah,
so
thank you very much.
Good.
No, thank you very much. No, hopefully people like it. I'd love to hear some feedback from it. If people kind of have come up with any riffs on it as well, if they've, chopping any of the stuff out, I'll be fascinated to hear about that. And, maybe even try it with some other yeasts as well. I think that would be fascinating. I'd love to try it with like an SO4 or something like that as well. I think would be really, really interesting. So yeah.
Well, if we hear anything back, Hoddy, we'll be sure to let you know. And with that announcement, we do have a little bit more good news and interesting news for the listeners. Hoddy, do you want to tell us a little bit about aspirations for a collaboration with us?
Well, so we've talked about how my roots are firmly placed in homebrewing, and obviously about the amazing comp that you guys did and held before, and I was lucky enough, because I consider myself lucky to win that competition. I thought it was about time that we return the favor. So therefore, I thought it was a really good idea that actually we ran the homebrew competition again, but this time hosted by us at Maverick. So we're going to give back with you wonderful guys from the Hop Edition, and we're going to run Homebrew Comp Part 2.
Nice. Yeah, we're well geared up for doing this. I think in terms of time frame, we're thinking about autumn this year.
Next year.
Yeah.
Probably.
Yeah.
Next year.
Yeah, autumn next year. Yeah.
Autumn this year.
That's autumn now.
That would be a struggle.
Good. Yeah, you could tell I've had a few beers. Yeah, nice. Go back in time, get your DeLorean going at whatever speed it had to go at. Someone's going to know the speed, right?
87 miles an hour.
87 miles per hour.
Like
Thanks, Tricky.
I
knew you'd know that.
I might be wrong, or maybe it's 88. Is it 88?
I thought it was 88. Yeah,
it might be 88.
88. Brilliant. So I think we still need to work through some of the details in terms of what kind of style of beer we're thinking about. I suspect we're probably going to go with some kind of style parameters for it. So it's not going to be an open competition. We are going to aim to provide feedback sheets for everyone, as opposed to last time when we did some very limited feedback, but not feedback sheets for everyone. And we're certainly thinking about capping the ABV as far as the thinking and development's gone. But the main and key takeaway is Hoddy's going to be amazing. He's going to host us at Maverick. It's going to be great fun. And we're going to have a good laugh rerunning another homebrew competition, as the last one did go very, very well. So, guys, shall we pull the curtain there? Is there anything else we wanted to talk about?
Oh, the question is, do we let Chris in because he's just arrived?
Oh, we haven't even really mentioned.
As if you can stop me. As if you can stop me.
Hello,
What's
mate.
up, bitches?
He's turned up for the after party. Honestly, we didn't
Just
even
in
mention
time
at the beginning.
to
I
take
probably
the
should have
picture.
mentioned Chris. He's not here.
Oh yeah, by the
He's-
way, Chris has been
he's
to a panto. Sorry he couldn't make it, etc., etc.
No, he hasn't.
Chris, he's behind you.
Is he?
He's behind you.
Oh no, he isn't.
Yes, he is. Oh dear.
Oh dear, yeah.
They had Budvar on tap. I don't care.
Oh
Oh,
wow.
wicked. Nice.
Yeah, but how much was that a pint?
£4.
What?
A
There you
pint? Shut up. That was for small bottles, wasn't it?
£4 a pint. I paid £2.60 something for that small bottle I posted a picture of.
What?
That's a nice theatre. That is-
Yorkshire.
To be fair, Christine Iverson's not far wrong. I've been waiting for the shed to warm up.
Oh.
Have you got
I'm
the
re-
balls heater on remote control? Can you switch that on from
I
outside?
have got it. on
I'm
a
ready
smart
for the
Of
phone.
course he
after party.
fucking has. He's got it on a smart socket, hasn't he?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Hoddy, welcome. How are you?
Hello, mate. I'm good, man. I'm good. Yeah, it's been equally cold. Well, it hasn't been cold in the tap room, but we have had all of the heaters on full blast, -3 outside, and we've managed about 15 degrees in the
That's
tap room,
fine.
which is not too bad.
That's okay.
Plus,
yeah.
plus beer coat makes like 24. People will probably strip it off.
Yeah, and we've had an
Yeah.
epic curry van on site today as well. So with a nice hot curry, a couple of beers, bit of music, there you go. What do you need?
Banging. That's what you want.
Amazing.
Exactly. So yeah,
Right.
so yeah, there we go. Homebrew comp is go. Start sharpening your pencils, and I expect a big turnout down in North Hampshire, and there'll be barbecue, there'll be a food truck, there'll be maybe some live music, and we'll go big or go home.
Yeah. More
We'll have a
details to
wild
follow,
time.
so stay tuned for that one.
Yeah.
Just a quick one. Did you guys do a commercial?
Yes.
We did.
Yeah, cool. This is my commercial, and it's a banger.
Siren never
Idaho
fails.
7. There you go.
Never
Yeah,
fails.
Of Idaho 7. This is
Ah.
a great bit.
Chris, you love Idaho 7.
I do. I'd marry it if I wasn't already married.
Yeah, I do love Idaho 7 as well.
Can you marry a hop?
I can try.
Maybe.
Didn't somebody
You can
marry a
try.
Hoover once?
Maybe.
Anyway. Come on, guys, just imagine I'm not here. In fact, I'll help you with that.
Bye, Chris. So we are going to be having an after party. As always, we're going to post a link for the after party into the chat. If anyone wants to come join us, Hoddy, are you good hanging around for a little while? For an hour or
I'll be
so.
here.
You normally at the after parties, right? Typically, when you roll in from the brewery, you crack open a beer.
Yeah. This would normally be my rolling in time after doing the tap room on a Saturday. So yeah, I'll join you for a few more. I've got a few more beers down here.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Nice.
So I want to say it because Chris normally says it. That is episode 82 in the bag. Part of Christmas special Chris Bingo. If he says in the bag at any point, that's one corner dabbed. But yeah, Hoddy, thanks very much for joining us. It's been really good fun.
No, thanks very much, guys. I really appreciated it. It's been a whirlwind of a year. Support from you guys, support from everyone that's been coming into the brewery and tap room. It's been absolutely epic. I can't believe it's our first birthday in May next year. It's kind of already doing my head in to think that that'll be a year. Follow us on social media. Keep an eye out for us. We've got loads of content that we kick out on a regular basis. Hopefully, all going to plan. We'll have an online shop and cans appearing after Christmas in sort of January time.
That was going to be the next thing I was going to say.
Of which hopefully pictures will be on that list. It's great to see you guys. Really look forward to it, and really looking forward to the homebrew comp. I think it's going to be epic and a real good chance to kind of give back, as it were. So awesome.
Indeed. Right, should we call it a day?
Yeah, that's great. Thanks for all the insights, Martin. That was awesome.
Yeah,
No worries, cool. No worries. If anyone ever has any questions about going pro or doing anything like that at all,
don't do it.
Reach out to me. But no, just reach out to me through social media, email, whatever. I'm more than happy to answer any questions. If you want to drop by to the brewery and come and have a look, I'm if I'm there, we can sort something out. So by all means, come by.
Amazing. Right. Cheers, everyone. Have a good time. Bye.
Don't stop it yet. We need to say to people that the link for the after party has just been posted on Facebook and on YouTube, and I will stick it in Discord in a moment when Discord boots up.
Sweet.
Thanks, Chris.
Bye.
Tech
What do I do? Do I just leave studio?
Just hang out
No.
for a while.
Yeah.
We're gonna terminate the live stream and
Bye bye,
you know,
YouTube.